Okay, guys, so today's fun facts with Jonathan, are, don't hate me for that, are both brought to you by this giant pile of wood. It was steaming this morning like crazy, and it made me think about what I should tell you guys. So first fun fact, crawl space fact. Dry rot is a complete misnomer. Of all the things that just makes me angry in this business, like immediately, this is one of them. I cannot tell you how many times I've gone to a client's house and they ask me, well, don't we want to avoid our crawl space getting too dry in case of dry rot? And trust me, I could have a whole rant about too dry. Like, what do you guys think happens in the desert? But we'll talk about that later. Because that's one I've heard from so many people. But just the dry rot one is just so infuriating because it's the exact opposite. Dry rot is a fungus that only usually happens over 20% wood moisture content. It's not something that's going to happen if your wood gets too dry. It's going to happen if your wood gets too wet. It's several funguses, but I think just one primarily. I can't quite remember the name of it. I always remember it with crying serpent because it's like Serpula lacrimens or something like that. Like it's close to serpent and lacrimose, crying. So yeah, go look it up. Just Google it once. What I find so obnoxious about it is the amount of times that I've heard guys who have been in the industry 25 years be like, oh, you don't want to get that crawl space too dry because dry rot, this or that. And it's like, dude, you've been doing this 25 years. Did you never think to just Google it one frickin' time and just check on the base assertions that you're applying to really important things? Anyway, that's the first fun fact. Dry rot, total misnomer. Don't believe me? Just Google it once. It's so obvious information to find out. Second one, so when I saw this wood pile this morning, it was steaming like crazy. And the reason for that is the same as your crawl space rotting, some of which is fungal, in fact, mostly fungal in this case. But there's also a microbiotic component. I don't remember if it's anaerobic or aerobic bacteria. I would assume it's aerobic bacteria, but regardless, wood chips plus water makes for an intense heat. It's composting. And the fun fact is this: in the 1950s, possibly 40s, I don't quite remember, a dude named Jean Pain, genius Frenchman, I think he might have been Swiss French, genius guy, was trying to justify the use of scrub brush. You see, he was a forester, or at least responsible for a large tract of forest, and they kept having forest fires because of all this scrub brush. And he knew that if he could just get people to get rid of the scrub brush, he could stop the fires that were ravaging his home. But the problem is there was no economic value to that scrub brush, so he tried to make one. He invented a very, very specific chipper that created long, fine strands of wood. And then what he ended up doing is he made these massive mounds of them, and he would get them wet, and he would compact them, and as he would make and layer them around a central container, which was like, I think he used modified water heaters to start with, but like big metal containers welded shut, which he would fill with wood, chips, and water. He would then make this ginormous pile of wood chips around that, and in it he would wet and compress the chips around polycarbonate tubing, right? And what happened is two things. One, the heat would heat up the chamber with the wood chips and the water, and it would produce methane gas. But also, the polycarbonate tubing he would pass water through. And what he ended up doing is he heated his entire house with radiant flooring heating, right? He also used all the hot water in his house from this hot water passing through it. I think it would come out like 120 degrees or something like that year round. I think he'd have to make about 3 wood piles for the entire year. And then, and this is where it gets really cool, the methane that came out, he distilled and compressed, and then he modified his chainsaws and trucks and everything so that he created a complete closed loop system wherein a few guys, and he did this for his whole community eventually, a few guys would go out twice a year, mow down the scrub brush, chip it, make these piles, and the piles would produce the heat for their homes, the hot water, and the electricity, cooking fuel, and run the chainsaws and trucks and everything so that he was able to make a perfect closed loop system so that they had free and abundant, renewable, sustainable energy. This is back in the 40s and 50s. The fact that this hasn't taken off in massive droves in temperate climates boggles my mind. If you have sufficient forest land, this is a great way to prevent forest fires and heat everything. The guy was a genius.